Rivergate Marketing Vice President of Account Services, Christine McQuilkin, and Digital Marketing Account Manager, Grace Clark, were co-creators of and presented at the inaugural CSIA Marketing Workshop. You've heard it said time and time again, content is king. But creating content in a technically driven, engineering-dominated industry can seem like a daunting task for any marketer. Rivergate Marketing wants you to become a confident and competent content champion for your company. Grace and Christine led a session entitled How to Create Compelling Technical Content and Track Success with SEO Metrics. Grace shared how to gather information and create compelling, technically driven content. Christine helped attendees gain an understanding of SEO concepts and tools to measure content effectiveness. She also shared content SEO checklists for conducting website audits. Rivergate Marketing's creative manager, Lauren Miranda, was the event's MC. To learn more about the workshop session or to download the slides, visit the link in the description.
Today, they will be guiding us through the intricate landscape of content creation and tracking. We'll be looking at SEO, we'll be looking at content creation. These two have a lot to offer. Very excited for their presentation. So without further ado, let me introduce Christine and Grace.
I'm Grace. I'm a digital marketing account manager at Rivergate Marketing, and I'm really excited to talk to you guys about making technical content. So technical content is, when you first enter this industry, especially if you're not an engineer, is terrifying. There's all these technical terms that you have to learn. When I first came into this, I was not an engineer. I had a degree in marketing. I had no idea I was going to be working in the engineering industry, and it was very scary. I can remember my first conversation with an engineer to build content, and he was like, "So you know what this is?" "No, not at all." Oh, you know what this is?" "No, go lower." "This?" "No, the dumbest of dumb that you can do, I do not understand." But 4 years later, I'm here, and I can proudly say I don't have an engineering degree, but I can make technical content. And I'm gonna give you guys some tips and strategies to make it a lot less intimidating and a lot more approachable. So to start, why bother with content, right? So the whole point is to get people onto your website. And how do you do that? When someone puts in a search to Google, Google wants to give them the most relevant content to that search. So if you're not making content that is relevant to what people might be searching, they're not going to find you. Instead, they're going to find the other people who are making more relevant content. And as we know, in this industry, being a thought leader, that's a term you're going to hear a lot, is really important. And if you're not putting out content that demonstrates that thought leadership, they're not going to make it to your site. So there's all kinds of different kinds of content. Like, this is just a small tip of the iceberg of what you can make. They all have different purposes though, and you'll kind of start to understand, like, as you start making more content, you'll be like, oh, that's right, an ebook would be more appropriate for this, a blog would be more appropriate for this. But you'll also see how they start to like kind of combine together. So you might say that this was a really great case study, I need to get my engineer on a webinar to talk about this. Or I love this blog, I should send out an email blast that targets specific people in my, your database, who might be interested in that blog. So there's a lot of different ways to go about it. But to get started, like, a hard thing to think about is like, what am I gonna write about? What am I gonna make? I highly suggest you base your topics off of company goals and strategy. So if your company is looking to grow, like let's say your company is like, we need to grow our sales in robotics by 10%. Well, that tells you you need to be talking about robotics. You're trying to get people to buy robotics things from your company. You need to be talking about it. You also need to be talking about your core competencies, or that would be like your bread and butter, what you're really good at, and what you want to be known for as an expert in. Maybe there's new industries that you're trying to break into. You've done a little bit of work with food and beverage, but you want more. Well, to attract those clients, you need to be talking about the food and beverage industry. They need to be able to relate to you. Another one that I don't have on this slide is who's hiring? It seems like everybody's hiring. Well, if you want to attract people to your company, you need to tell them what you're like. You need to demonstrate what kind of projects you're working on. What are the engineers who are at your company like? You know, are you like Grace Solutions, where it's a little bit more laid back, you know, the Ryan Reynolds type? Or maybe you're looking, you're trying to attract engineers who are a lot more, I don't know, structured and not Ryan Reynolds. I don't know. But You get my point. If you're not telling people about that, how can they know? So in addition to your business goals, there's also marketing goals, right? Like you have to do both. Maybe you've been tasked with brand awareness. No one knows who you are. That's a problem. Thought leadership kind of ties into that. Do people know that you're an expert in what you say you are, right? If you are like the PLC upgrade king, people need to know you as that, right? And how can they know you as that if you're not putting out content around it? And there's a whole bunch of other things that content can help support. Like I said, there, increase social media following, help your SEO. It does a lot. So one important thing you also have to do is find the resources at your company. Raise your hand if you are an engineer. Wow, that's really cool. Who would have thought at this conference? Keep your hand raised. Keep your hand raised if you would say you are an expert in every type of engineering that your company offers. Oh my goodness. Okay, well that is, everybody go talk to him. He knows what he's doing. But not very many people, right? So when you're a marketer or you're whoever's doing marketing at your company, they need to know who to talk to because they're not an engineer. You need to provide them with the technical resources to go talk to them and say, how do you do this? Because your poor marketer doesn't know how. They're not the person who's in the facilities doing these projects. They need to be able to talk to these people. This can be something that maybe marketing already knows. They're like, of course, I need to go talk to that person. But more likely, they need to talk to leadership, and they need leadership buy-in. If if leadership does not have their back and says, hello engineer, you need to work with marketing, surprise, surprise, a lot of engineers will run away from you. But what you will find is when you start to involve the engineers, they really like it. Engineers, they might not like to write, they love to talk. They like to talk about what they're up to. They want to talk about cool new stuff that's happening. So be sure to involve them. Okay, so these ideas, these clusters, like here's our strategy for growth, our core competencies, right? Let's turn that into individual pieces. So each piece should have purpose, right? Are you trying to educate your audience? Are you trying to demonstrate a technical competency? Maybe you're trying to highlight your company culture. There's all sorts of different purposes, and you'll see that it's like a puzzle piece that comes in with these strategies, right? So if I'm trying to grow my business in digital transformation, maybe I need to educate my audience. Maybe I need to highlight this type of technology. So I have an exercise for you guys, and they're gonna help pass out some sheets for you. So in this exercise, start writing out those goals that your company has. Write out your core competencies, your core industries, and things like that. And then start to think about what content could look like for you. These are very basic examples, but so if you have a goal of expanding business in the food and beverage industry, you should be talking about it. So maybe that looks like how to reduce scrap at your facility through digital transformation. 4 common mistakes made in the food and beverage industry when you start your digital transformation journey. This is just an example. There's so many different possibilities, so many different combinations to demonstrate what you want to demonstrate. So the reason I say put in your goal, right? Like, so digital transformation. It should be in the talk because that's what you need to repeat and talk about. That's how you make the content go further. That's how, it's like the thesis of what you're gonna write about. And it's that because that's the keywords that you're trying to get. And Christine's gonna talk about like what keywords are, what that all means, what it means for your SEO. But yeah, that's why you need to do that. Anyone else have one? So you've got your great content idea, right? The next task is to take all of that wonderful knowledge in your engineers' brains and put it onto a piece of paper. So a great way to do that is through an interview, and that's for a few reasons. You can record an interview, so then instead of furiously taking notes while you're listening to this person talk, you can engage with it. And later you can listen in on it, or you can use a tool like what we use, which is Rev. So it takes these videos or these recordings, and it just turns it into a transcript for us. It's not perfect because it's through AI, but it does give me a gist of what they said. I might have to make corrections. There are grammar things sometimes that need to be fixed, but I know what they said. And the best part about this is, unlike in high school, these are your engineers, these are your words to use. You can take their words and directly put that on paper. You do not have to summarize. This is not a report. You should take their explanations of how to do something or what they're describing and use it literally. You don't have to fully understand the concept to write about it. So when you're doing an interview, think of yourself as an investigative journalist, right? Who knows what the 5 whys are? Who, what, when, where, why? So if we're talking about a case study, right? Who was involved? Was it the plant manager? Was it the CEO? Who knows? Where did it take place? What kind of facility was it? What were they making? What problems were they experiencing? But the most important one is why. So if they did a technology upgrade, why did they choose to upgrade? Why did they choose that piece of technology, right? You need to give the reasoning behind it. In addition to that, being a good investigator is all about being curious, like genuinely curious. So I'm sure all of you guys have some kind of hobby, right? Maybe you are a collector of exotic fish, or you go mountain climbing. I have no idea what entails in any of those hobbies, but if I was gonna ask someone about their hobby, like I needed to write about their hobby, I'd say, what got you into exotic fish collection? What do you like to collect? Why do you like that one so much? If I was a beginner about to get into exotic fish collection, where should I start? These are all easy questions of just being, well, what's that all about, right? Being curious. You can do that with an engineer too. What technology did you use? Why did you use that piece of technology? That's really interesting. Like, what do you like about this piece of technology? Like, it can go on and on and on. And then, if that line closes, go to your next question. It's as easy as that. Just be curious. So, structuring your content. You can do this before the interview, you can do this after. It's up to you. My personal preference is before. But the best structure I have found is problem, solution, results, right? This is structured kind of like when you tell a story. Your character is gonna encounter a problem, they've got to solve the problem, and then they have their happily ever after, right? People love stories. They're more memorable, right? So if we break that down, the problem. What was going on? What was going wrong? If someone is looking to do a PLC upgrade, why? What was the state of their facility? What was going wrong? Why did they need to upgrade? What was the sense of urgency, right? That urgency is really important. And more importantly, you want your reader, your audience, to identify with that problem. If they can say, I'm in that industry too. I'm actually having that problem as well. It gives them a reason to keep reading, because naturally our brains want the solution. And the solution is the engineer's favorite part. It's what they're all gonna wanna focus on. That's, how'd you do it? How'd you solve this problem? Why was that the best solution to solve that problem, right? Pretty easy peasy. And then the results. Results are also pretty fun. If it's a case study, ROI, what did the person gain from going through this transformation, right? That's really important. That's the bow on your thesis statement, right? And this doesn't have to be just a case study. This can work for just about anything. For example, let's say I want to talk about a new piece of technology that I'm really excited about, right? What problem does that technology solve? What's the solution? The technology, tell me about it. And then the results, what can someone experience if they implement that technology solution, right? It works just like clockwork. It's a great foundation to start an interview. It's a great foundation to start actually making content. So, you've gone and made your fabulous piece of content. It's ready for the world to see. A common question we get asked when it's going to go onto your website, should you gate the content or should you not gate the content? What does that mean? So when it's on your website, you can do something where you have a form and you can say, if you give me info, I'll give you a download. It's an exchange. This is great. The pro of it is that's someone who, if they really want that piece of content that you've made, they're now going to give you their information. You can keep contacting them. Fantastic. They have raised a flag that says, look at me, I'm interested in this. You need to keep talking with them. The most important thing that you collect, above all else, is their email. Email is the most important thing that you collect. Nothing else. You can get that later in the relationship. But there are some major cons to it. When you gate something, Google cannot reach it. So all those delicious little keywords that you put into this hard piece of content, it's not going to find them. So that's a major downfall. The other is some people just don't want to give you their information. So it's up to your discretion which one you use. If you've got a really juicy piece of content that you don't want to just give out there for free, maybe you should gate it. But if it's something that's like educational, if it's something that really tells a story about what your company does, maybe you want to put it out there for the masses. And when you publish, you worked hard to make that content, right? Content just doesn't appear out of thin air. So publish it effectively. Utilize all your channels. What does that mean? So if you have emails, social media, spread it out there. Don't just publish it on your website in this nice little corner. Isn't it so nice there? No, people need to know about it. It needs to get out there. So publish it on all your channels. When you're publishing it on your website, and this is specific to going onto your website, fill in the meta descriptions. This is something that is easily overlooked. Christine will talk more about meta descriptions and things like that, but what is it? It's like a little couple of sentences that when someone searches something in Google, you know how you see the link, and then you see a couple of sentences? That's the meta description. Your meta description must have that keyword in it. It's gonna help Google rank it. Very small, but very important to remember. Tools like Yoast for WordPress, I don't know if it works on other platforms, but WordPress is the most common. It can help you say, is that meta description good or bad? Kind of helps you see that a little bit. And then don't forget about alt text. So if what you're publishing has an image with it, alt text is essentially, if someone had a visibility impairment, there's readers that they can get that will say, this is what the image is, right? But that alt text is also a really great tool for SEO. So you need to have your company name and then include that keyword somewhere in there in that image, right? Two small things, but they make your content go so much further SEO-wise. And again, Christine will get into that in just a bit. You also need to have your header tags consistent. What are those? So when you publish something on your website, you know how you'll have a big title and another little title you can do, paragraph, another title. So there's different hierarchies for that. You want your H1 to be the most important statement, right? Typically this is a title or a subtitle. Then from then on, it needs to be in chronological order. Sometimes people don't do this because your website will automatically make H1 and H2 and H3 look different, right? So they're like, ooh, H4 over here looks really pretty, and H5 should go up here. Don't do that. You want them to be in chronological order because A, it helps with readability and helps Google read it. So if you're thinking about like, can I read this well? That's a good question for can Google also read it well, right? And so now, Christine is gonna go way deep into how to measure the success of the content that you're gonna put on your website.
Hello, thank you, Grace. Thank you everyone for supporting the very first CSIA marketing workshop. I'm so happy that we are over capacity today. We had to bring in extra chairs. It's great to see so many new faces, people I haven't met yet, and some faces of people we've worked with before. So thank you. I'm really excited to share my knowledge of content SEO and share what Grace showed you how to, dive in and create that content. Now let's get it as far as we can. Just starting out with marketing metrics. I know the previous session they talked about a little bit about marketing metrics. There's not a lot of numbers in marketing that are super firm. Much to the dismay of the engineers that we work for and with. So it's kind of trend type information, but the SEO metrics are a little bit more firm. So I'm an engineer, I have a couple of engineering degrees, but I crossed over to the dark side of marketing about, or more than a decade ago. I've been in the system integration industry, so I'm a numbers person. I love the SEO numbers that we're going to talk about here today. So specifically, keywords, domain and page authority, we're going to concentrate on a lot. And in a few minutes, we're going to hand out a customized report. If you were able to get our email, if you signed up early enough and you filled out our form, we will give you a custom Moz report, which you can look at all this information for your own company in a few minutes. So engineers like myself, I mentioned that we love to talk about numbers. And so when you have these conversations internally in your own company, remember I warned you. Okay, the tool that we use to measure content SEO is called Moz. And we have a little swag up here, Moz. We told them that we would be talking about their tool in this workshop, so feel free to grab anything that they've sent along to us kindly. And is anyone here familiar with Moz? Have you used it? Raise your hand. A few people. Okay, it's good to know. Good to know. So we'll It's a paid software platform. We have a subscription to it. It's a set of SEO tools, and we're just going to do the very top level here. It can do much more than all this stuff, but this is kind of like the basic content SEO stuff we feel like everybody should understand and utilize for their benefit. It's a way of quantifying things that sometimes have been difficult to quantify in the past. And as I mentioned, we're going to do keywords, page authority, and domain authority. Keyword, just to be at the very top level here, keyword is a search term or phrase that a user will type into a search engine like Google, and then stuff happens and they end up on your website. So what did they type in to get to your website? That's what we want to figure out, and then we want to start making changes on that. Keywords are like your online identity. So how we cultivate those keywords, we can gain better exposure over time. So how this happens is that the search engines like Google, they have their bots, they crawl your website, and they are going to classify you. It's your authority. They're assigning an authority to the words on your website. It's a measure of how valuable your content is to users. And on a granular level, the keywords are the search terms, how the search engine is funneling traffic to your website. Does this make sense? So Moz tracks the keywords for your company that show up in the top 50 search positions. So once upon a time, Google had pages, page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5 of Google. Now it's an infinite scroll, but so we're still talking about those top 5 pages or the top 50 search positions here. And these are the search terms for a website traffic. The type is organic traffic. Are we all familiar with organic? Okay. Great, the other kinds might be direct traffic, referral traffic, paid, email, social, etc. But we're talking about organic here. This is free, and this is really what we want to take time to develop with our content over time. It takes a long time to get your organic search traffic to a nice level. And we're going to give you a target of 50%. We'd love it if we'd feel very happy if your organic search traffic was 50% of your total monthly traffic. Any further clarification? So this keyword list that you may or probably can't read because I know it's small up there. This is for CSIA or controlsys.org, and you'll have this on the Moz reports we're going to hand out to you in a bit. These are the top keywords that end up in the #1 position in Moz for CSIA, and I'll just kind of summarize it. There are a bunch of varieties of control system integrators with different pluralization, certification, CSI webinar, best practices, conference, etc., just as an example. So over time, if you get your keyword list from Moz, you can analyze and see what terms you're ranking for. And when you get this keyword list, I want you to ask yourself a few questions. Do these terms represent the kind of work I want to do? Or is there a mismatch there? You can group your keywords into themes and see if the themes are representing your major business units. Do you have a lot of terms that relate to products or services that you used to do, but you really don't want to do that anymore? Are there enough terms about the work you're going for in the future? So that's why it's important to look at the exact words and kind of think about them, analyze them. Over time, they do change. The keyword list that we pull now will be different from what you'll see in a month or 6 months. So we do look at them over time, and here's a comparison example. One of our engineers on staff has written an Excel macro to easily show the keywords lost and gained when you're comparing 2 spreadsheets. So in this example, you can see the keywords lost were FANUC, controls, and consulting, but in the keywords gained, we have moved towards AGVs, AMRs, E-plan, end-of-line solutions, and had an additional emphasis on palletizing. Thankfully, this is exactly where the client wanted to go. They did, it was a conscious decision to move away from that kind of content and start talking about this kind of content, and it did over time reflect in the keywords in their Moz reports. So we'll talk more about that when we hand out your reports in a few minutes. Just a cautionary tale here. It's not the main focus of my presentation, but obviously it's the words on your website pages that are directing the traffic to your website. So if you're going to cut out those words, if you're trying to streamline or you're doing a redesign, don't cut away the important technical keywords. Don't streamline so much that there's nothing for Google to read and index to funnel that traffic to you. So please don't do this. You won't be happy if you do. Okay. This is a screenshot from the Moz reports that you'll all see soon. This shows the page authority and domain authority for CSIA, and I'll define those. A page authority is a predictive ranking of how well your page should rank in search engine results. So the page authority usually refers to your website's homepage, that single homepage. The domain authority is the same predictive ranking, but it encompasses your entire website, all of the pages. Page authority is usually higher than your domain authority because it's not practical to put all of your keywords on your homepage. So when we show this to clients, they really want to know, is this a good number? We'll tell you, we'll talk you through, is it a good number? So both page and domain authority are on a scale of 1 to 100, right? And higher is better. It's not a linear scale, so the higher you go, the more difficult it is to increase. Usually, like I mentioned, page authority is higher, and we're going to just stick with domain authority going forward, as it's a more important metric. It encompasses all the keywords on your entire website, so that's really what we're going to discuss. So what is a good number? I'm going to share some of my experience. When clients, smaller clients might start out with us, they might have a domain authority that's like in the teens. Or if they have been working on content creation on their own for a while, maybe they start out in the 20s. Over time, as we work with clients for 2, 3, 5 years, they might move into the 30s. And then the clients that have been with us the longest might be in the 40s. So that is kind of, you can benchmark yourselves, and I will show you how we all stack up against each other later, and in a non-discussion, so you'll see what the group is here. So this domain authority, it takes a lot of time to move upward, as you can imagine, because content creation process, and it has to be indexed, and then there's the user experience aspect of it. It takes a long time to move this needle upward, many years. But what can we do to help make that change? Have you heard of the acronym EAT, E-E-A-T, for content creation? It's experience. You need to demonstrate your experience, your expertise, your authoritativeness, and trustworthiness in your content. The search engines must believe these attributes about you, and your domain authority will increase. So, talking about keywords specifically, so the Moz reports will show you all the keywords that rank in the top 50 positions, and they're represented here. Each of these bars represents a different portion of the results. So column at the far left of 1 through 3, that's the number of keywords that will rank in position 1, 2, or 3 on the very first page of search results. So those are that's what you want, right? The top positions. Then the next bar is 4 through 10 on that same page 1. The other bars represent pages 2, 3, 4, and 5, what used to be those pages in the Google search. So this is a typical shape of a curve. A lot of the keywords are down lower in authority, like kind of buried farther down the search results. Over time, as you might develop more content and reinforce those keywords over time, a lot of them, the bulk might move towards the front, higher up in the results. And that's what we want to see. And it's a typical shape when you start working on your keyword and content SEO. Any questions about this? Does this chart make sense to people? So the height of the bar is the number of keywords in each of those positions. Okay, moving on to some additional numbers. So I grabbed a few industry companies here, Siemens, ABB, and Rockwell. You will see this. This is a competitor research section. If you filled out our form, if you signed up for the workshop early enough, you got our email asking to show, we can do a competitor report for you. So some of you will see that. I want to describe what this chart means. It shows the number of words in the top positions. So that's the column that shows numbers 1 through 3 and 4 through 10 in the search engine results. The total number of ranking keywords, and they measure in the tens of thousands, and the page and domain authority for each of these lines. You can see they're pretty high. And Siemens, of course, is beating the others because they're a giant company and they have tons of catalogs. So the gut check on those results. And this chart is similar to the previous one of the keywords, how many keywords in each position, except now we've stacked up the 3 competitors against each other. You can see that they all kind of have that same shape. More of the keywords are down lower in the search engine results, and fewer are towards me on the left side in the coveted top positions. And finally, in the keyword, the competitor section, we can see how the keywords compare to each other for the 3 companies. This Venn diagram is a little unique because there is a section where all 3 of the competitors overlap on a certain number of words, and that is 1,900 words in the center between the 3 circles. Now, I was looking at your reports, and this is not typical. What your results are more typical, where the circles might barely be touching. Like, you might go head to head with a competitor on every job, and you would think that your keywords will like be on top of each other, they just match, but they might only be barely touching because we all write about different things on our website. So it's really interesting to kind of dig into that and say, well, they've got all these keywords of stuff that we do, and we do it better than they do, and we ought to be ranking for that. So you can analyze the keywords of your competitors and see how you can make your content different to speak to those. Maybe it's something you just isn't on your website yet. And I just wanted to mention that Moz reports are only updated every couple of weeks, so this isn't something that we can look at daily. It's something that we pull monthly for our clients and we discuss twice a year. So it's as I mentioned, like the domain authority, it's a slow moving thing. Keywords change a little faster. Okay, and another example of, shows the big boys here, Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. So now you can see the keywords are measuring in the millions, and the domain authority is about as high as you could get on a scale of 1 to 100. We're well into the 90s. So just another example. Lots of dollars, obviously, went into making those numbers. Okay, so as promised, we'll go ahead and distribute the attendee reports. So I think in the back, they're going to call out names, and if you wouldn't mind just coming to the person who's called out your company name, we'll get it done quickly.
One at a time, we'll call company. Holly.
Okay, if you didn't get one, please just come to us later, and we're happy to pull that and create it for you and email it to you. I know some of the people who may have signed up a little later, we didn't have a chance to do that, so. This information is from April 12th, so it's new. And note your page and domain authority numbers. You can consider this your starting position. If you're going to start regularly creating and publishing keyword-rich content, these numbers will move upwards in the future. And so what's even better is you're going to be able to take control of what is driving people to your website. You're going to be able to have those keywords reflect the kind of business that you want to do and hopefully attract the traffic who is looking for help with that stuff. This is a histogram of the domain authority distribution for everybody who's here in the room, unless you signed up in the last minute. So the range is 1 through 54, and the average is 23.5, and the median is 23. So you can see where you fall. And remember, the higher you go, the more difficult it is. Place yourself. And this is keywords. Unfortunately, the graph has been, the scale has been thrown off by the company on the far right. So the range is 0 to a very impressive 4,000 words. The average is 362 keywords, and the median is 96.5. So if we throw out the bottom and we throw out the top, then the average becomes 277 keywords, and the median is 99. Okay, on your report, you should have a section, if you have 10 keywords, we put up to 10 keywords on, I think it's the second page there. Are you seeing a lot of name and location related words, or are you seeing technology? It's normal to have a lot of name related as you begin your content creation journey. And over time, as you're creating very good technical content, those will be replaced by Control Logic's upgrade or whatever, pelletizing or whatever keywords that you want to rank for. The people who are finding you through the keywords that are your name and location, these people already know about you. So those aren't really, that's not the traffic we're looking for. Another reason to go on that content creation journey. We want the people who don't yet know about you to find you via technical keywords. And this is how happy you're going to be when you get your next report and it's more like what you wanted it to look like. So setting expectations with your management. It's good to have conversations about these things are hard to move. Marketing numbers might not necessarily be firm. We tend to think of most marketing numbers as more like trend type information. Okay. But improving your SEO numbers will help you. It's going to help you bring more of the kind of website traffic that you're looking for. You won't be able to say this piece of content brought in that lead maybe, but you're going to have more of the right kind of traffic and you'll have more traffic overall. So what do you do if your numbers aren't where you had hoped or you want to continue to improve? Well, we can talk you through that. What if you don't have a lot of keywords? What if your keywords don't relate to the kind of work you want to do? What if your domain authority isn't as high as you would like? What's a marketer to do? So Grace showed you earlier in the segment how to get unstuck in your content creation process, gave you a lot of ideas of different types of content to create. And there is no shortcut to move these numbers. And the process is very simple. It's not easy, but it's simple. Decide what keywords you want to be known for. Sit down with your management team, have a conversation. You're not going to have 100 keywords that you want to be known for because it's just pick 5, pick 10, and start there. Maybe it has to do with the business direction you want to move in. Then write good quality content with those keywords in it. Do this consistently over a long period of time. It's that simple. Your domain authority has components that are other than keywords. So we've created an SEO checklist, which they're handing out right now, to avoid the biggest pitfalls in content SEO. We're not talking about technical SEO. We're not talking about the agency that does all their magic in the back end. This is stuff that you can do yourself, and it's going to make a big difference. It's going to avoid some of those low-level errors that you might get dinged for. So to quickly run through it, fresh quality content. I think we've talked about that. We talked about keywords. Internal linking, this is something we haven't mentioned yet. If you have 5 pieces of content on palletizing, they should all link to each other. Internal website linking is very important and it's rewarded highly by the search engines. Image optimization. Grace talked about this with the alt text. So name your image properly, not image 009.jpg, like that doesn't help anyone. Name it with your company name, the technology, and then with that alt text, fill that alt text in with any additional keywords that are related to the image. Because the screen readers read those words, but the search engines read them as well. Header tags, your title is the H1 tag. Only have one H1 tag on each web page. The next title that you use should be H2. And if there's any ones that are lesser size, it should be H3 in order. That's important. Let's see, the metadata, Grace talked about the metadata. If Yoast is the plugin we use in WordPress, it'll prompt you for that. It'll tell you if it's too long or if it's too short. It's really important. It's a summary of the page containing the keywords that you need to have, that you're trying to rank for on that page. You need to have a proper URL structure. External linking. Now this is something we haven't touched on yet, and probably Julie will talk more about this topic, but high domain authority websites such as CSIA Exchange or these large publishers, when they link to your site because maybe you've authored an article and they're linking back to your site on that article, high domain authority linking to your website raises your domain authority over time. It's another reason it's really important to publish content in industry journals. The engineers in the room might
not want to hear, but social media presence is actually important. It does factor into the algorithm for search engine rankings. I'm not saying you have to, be on there all day, every day, all the time, but just have the accounts. Post to them. I mean, once a week. I know. Responsive design. Does everyone know what responsive design is? It's when your website automatically adjusts smaller for a tablet and smaller for a phone. Okay. It's very important in the search engine algorithm. If your website isn't responsive, probably you should just go take care of that right now. It's the most important thing. Site speed, there's tools to see if you have slow loading images. These are all, most of these are low level, but over time, these errors accumulate and your site might be dinged for having a bunch of this stuff and then the site structure. So I know each of these topics we could talk about like for an hour or more, but we've written an article which goes in a little further in depth, and that's what the QR code links to. You can submit questions on the Hoova app, or you can ask us later. We love to talk about this stuff. We totally geek out on this stuff, especially me. I want to thank you again for your time today and your support of the first marketing workshop. And no marketing presentation would be complete without asking for you to connect with us on LinkedIn.
Thank you for watching How to Create Compelling Technical Content and Track Success with SEO Metrics. If you have any questions, please contact us at info@rivergatemarketing.com. To learn more or download the slides and handouts, visit the link in the description.